Wendy Williams is in trouble, and if she doesn't get the necessary help now, the elites will definitely succeed in getting rid of her. Hollywood is a place where fame and fortune often go hand in hand, but it's also a place where bizarre illnesses strike some of the most well-known personalities. The weird part is that most of the victims are some of the strongest beings you will ever come across on the face of Earth. If that's the case, then why do they suddenly get sick with illnesses that no one seems to know about? The answer is known only to the elites, who seem to be in control of who lives and who dies. Wendy Williams is one of the most fearless TV presenters who tackled some difficult issues. She didn't care who she was facing. When it came to doing her job, no one stood in between. The elites tried to silence Dave Chappelle, Kanye West, and many others. This seems to be what is happening to the iconic TV presenter. I mean, how can someone change from this to this in a blink of an eye? What's really happening to Wendy Williams? Right about now, she's complaining about a lot of things. People have stolen all her money, she's bankrupt, and now people are calling her crazy. But this isn't a new situation in Hollywood. Kanye West explained this very well when it happened to him. Listen to this. I'm saying is, look, they tried to medicate me, I was exhausted, they wrongly diagnosed me, and they when I asked them how much lithium did you want to put me on exactly, it took them 4 days to answer because they were embarrassed about the amount, right? And I refused to take this, right? You understand that if I had taken the medication, I would not be here, and it would have been, he was deeply troubled. We miss him, we love his music though. Well, they would have Britney Spears too. I mean, look, they would have Michael Jackson, or worse. Fortunately, Kanye West outsmarted them, but I know their plan was to continue putting him on the wrong medication, then drain him financially so that he couldn't afford proper medication and eventually die. When this plan failed, they labeled him crazy so that people should stop paying attention to him.
I ain't never been back to the hospital since 2015, but every time they say I'm crazy, it's just when I'm saying the truth. So what's the crazy part, really?
The same thing happened to the great Dave Chappelle, and Cat Williams talked about it.
Dave Chappelle was decapitated in front of us. They called him Pilot Boy because he had 19 pilots in Hollywood, and everybody passed on him and said his show.
What do you think of?
Then when he made $500 million, they said even though his contract said he should get half of it, they said he made too much for the contract to be valid, so we'll offer you 10% of what you made. You mean he made $500 million and they offered him 50? Yes. And he said, what do you think my fans are gonna say when they find out you offered me 10% of what I made you? And they said, your fans will believe that you're a crazy crackhead by the time you get home. And my nigga got on the flight in LA, and by the time he got to Ohio, it was so.
One thing
Y'all need to understand is that people who poison or kill us are not people from a distance, but people we break bread with and call family. People that we think are safe to be around with. If you watch the Dave Chappelle and Oprah Winfrey interview, you will understand what I am talking about. The interview gave me a different feeling about her. She sounded like she was pushing a different narrative. Just listen to her.
It was completely outside of my frame of reference. I've been in show business since I was 14. And I've heard the stories of what happens, and I've seen these kinds of things play out in front of me.
Okay.
When
you say you heard the stories, what do you mean? What stories?
I mean, you see before, look, Mariah Carey made a $100 million deal, and 3 months later, she's all of a sudden mysteriously crazy. Or Martin Lawrence punches through, and he's waving a gun on the street screaming, they're trying to kill me.
Yeah, we hear those stories.
And it always happens around the time of their career where it seems as though they're crossing over the next plateau.
Yeah. Would you say you lost your mind, sort of?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
I wasn't crazy, but it's incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
And I felt like in a lot of instances, I was deliberately being put through stress.
What about Jamie Foxx, who mysteriously got sick, and until now no one knows what the problem was? His former doctor told us there was more to it. He even dared him to speak out. Unfortunately, Jamie Foxx is too scared of the elites. He only gave us tiny details of what happened to him, but you can see through his eyes that the experience was devastating for him. Wendy Williams is going through a situation that we have witnessed many go through, and I love that we have some people who are not scared to talk about it. Let's listen to Kanye West expose what happened to Michael Jackson, Prince, Bruce Lee, and Brandon Lee.
Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee were both murdered. Michael Jackson not waking up one day. Prince not waking up one day. Bruce and Brandon Lee, Bob Marley, all of these things have crossed my mind.
Bruce Lee died at the age of 32 under mysterious circumstances. Brandon Lee died from a wound caused by a firearm malfunction. Bob Marley died from a melanoma. Prince died of an accidental fentanyl overdose. Michael Jackson died of cardiac arrest, which was caused by a lethal combination of sedatives and propofol, an anesthetic. Kanye West says all these people were assassinated by the elites because of their positive influence on the world. Kanye West has numerously exposed the elites for tearing down everyone who doesn't fit their narrative, which many people have agreed to because they have seen that happen to so many different people. Once the elites fail to control or kill you, they will find a means of getting rid of you. Either by turning the world against you like they did with Tupac, or by labeling you crazy so that people shouldn't pay attention to what you say. The perfect example is Kanye West himself. It is believed the Chinese government was behind both Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee's deaths. While both Prince and Michael Jackson were killed because the elites couldn't control them, the elites were afraid of the power these two possessed. That's why they decided to get rid of them. At the time of their deaths, both Prince and Michael Jackson owned their masters. Michael Jackson owned half of ATV, the publishing company that owns Beatles Publishing, and Sony owned the other half. Unfortunately, after his death, the estate sold Michael's half to Sony, giving Sony 100% ownership of ATV. We all know what really happened to him and who got rid of him. Bob Marley is another genius and influential figure that the elites killed. Many fans believe he was assassinated, which somehow makes a lot of sense because of the following. There was an assassination attempt in his home in 1976, where his wife Rita was shot in the head and Bob Marley suffered a gunshot wound to the chest and arm. A year later, he was diagnosed with acral lentiginous melanoma. Was that a coincidence?
Did you see a neurologist?
To find out if I'm crazy?